PDCCH symbol adaptation enables the eNodeB to adjust the number of symbols occupied by a PDCCH based on the number of required CCEs. When a PDCCH requires fewer CCEs, the eNodeB decreases the number of symbols occupied by the PDCCH and allocates idle time frequency resources to PDSCH. When a PDCCH requires more CCEs, the eNodeB increases the number of symbols occupied by the PDCCH until the number reaches the maximum permissible value. The PDCCH symbol number adjust switch parameter specifies whether to enable PDCCH symbol adaptation. When the PDCCH symbol number adjust switch is set to off, the symbol adaptation is disabled. The number of symbols occupied by the PDCCH is specified by the PDCCH initial symbol number parameter, which indicates the number of OFDM symbols initially occupied by the PDCCH. When this parameter is set to a larger value, the downlink PDSCH occupies fewer resources and the downlink throughput decreases. When this parameter is set to on, PDCCH symbol adaptation is enabled, and CCE usage must be measured to check whether CCEs are sufficient. The measurement method of CCE resources is as follows. The CCEs are allocated in uplink and downlink for scheduling. Uplink scheduling CCEs transmit uplink grants, and downlink scheduling CCEs transmit downlink scheduling allocations. If uplink or downlink CCEs for scheduling fail to be allocated within the previous transmission time interval, CCEs are insufficient. In this situation, the number of symbols occupied by the PDCCH needs to be increased. If no CCE allocation failure occurs within a certain period of time and the remaining CCEs are sufficient, the number of required CCEs is less than the number of available CCEs in the symbols. In this situation, the number of symbols occupied by the PDCCH needs to be decreased. The number of OFDM symbols available for PDCCHs in a subframe is equal to CFI. The following table describes the number of symbols used by PDCCH when the PDCCH symbol number switch is set to on and off, with the corresponding setting of the initial PDCCH symbol number parameter. When the PDCCH symbol number switch is set to off, the number of symbols are allocated statically following the setting of the initial PDCCH symbol number parameter. When the PDCCH symbol number switch is set to on, and the initial PDCCH symbol number parameter is set to 1. If the bandwidth is 5, 10, 15, or 20 MHz, the eNodeB adjusts dynamically, PDCCH to use max CFI equals 3 dynamically. If the bandwidth is 1.4 or 3 MHz, the PDCCH occupies 4 or 3 OFDM symbols, respectively. If the initial PDCCH symbol number parameter is set to 2, the PDCCH uses a dynamic adaptation up to 2 symbols. If the initial PDCCH symbol number parameter is set to 3, the PDCCH uses a dynamic adaptation up to 3 symbols. The following table shows the maximum number of CCEs in one frame, for different settings of PDCCH symbol number switch, initial PDCCH symbol number and the PHICH resource parameters. When the PDCCH symbol number switch is set to eCFI adaptation on, the enhanced PDCCH symbol adaptation is enabled. This function enables symbol adaptation to be based on downlink load, CCE load, and scheduling type. Compared with the case where this parameter is set to on, eCFI adaptation on enables the number of symbols occupied by the PDCCH to be increased in a slower manner, and be decreased in a quicker manner. When the downlink load is greater than 90%, the number of symbols will not be increased, in case CCE allocation fails for downlink scheduling. When the downlink load is greater than 90%, and as long as CCE allocation failure for uplink scheduling does not occur during the previous TTIs, and the remaining CCE resources are sufficient, then the eNodeB immediately decreases the number of symbols occupied by the PDCCH. When the remaining CCE resources are sufficient, the number of symbols will not be increased in the case of CCE allocation failures. The threshold for determining whether remaining CCE resources are sufficient is specified by the CFI adjustment CCE threshold parameter. For the uplink pre-allocation, the parameter hysteresis for CFI increase based on pre-allocation scheduling indicates whether to increase the number of PDCCH symbols in case of uplink pre-allocation failure. When this parameter is set to 0, or the CFI adjustment CCE threshold parameter is set to a value other than INF, in this case, the number of symbols will not be increased in case CCE allocation fails for uplink pre-allocation.